Home appliances are expensive. Even a basic refrigerator, dishwasher, or washing machine will cost hundreds of dollars. If you want something with more features, we're talking thousands of dollars. A top-of-the-line dishwasher can easily set you back $2,000 to $3,000. A top-rated electric induction range, $2,000 to $4,000. A refrigerator with all the bells and whistles, a cool $10,000 to $13,000. So, when an appliance breaks, should you fix it or replace it? Let's talk about that. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, a contributing editor at checkbook.org.
Welcome to Consumerpedia at checkbook.org. We're the nonprofit that helps consumers select services, avoid trouble, and save money. Because we don't accept any advertising or take money from any business we recommend, you can rely on checkbook.org to be completely independent and objective. Now, here's the host of Consumerpedia, America's consumer expert, the Consumer Man, Herb Weisbaum.
Sooner or later, all appliances will have problems that need to be repaired. In this episode, how to decide whether to fix what you have or buy something new. If you do decide to go shopping, we have advice on how to get the best deal, plus ratings of local and national appliance stores. Checkbook's executive editor, Kevin Brassler's here to help with that.
Hey, Herb.
So when a home appliance goes on the fritz, the first thing we have to decide is whether to call a repair service or start looking for a replacement. So maybe you should start with your advice on whether it's better to repair or replace an appliance when something breaks. Seems a lot of homeowners suffer a breakdown and immediately start hunting for a replacement, but many times I guess appliance repair is the least expensive way to go.
Yeah, I think as you said, a lot of homeowners these days, they assume that, something goes wrong with a fridge or whatever, that they need to immediately seek a replacement. But I think it's important to note that the average appliance repair is only about $150 to $200 or so. So if you're happy with what you've got, if you're happy with how it performs and it has the features you want, and especially if it hasn't broken down before, if it's been reliable so far, I say seek out a repair first. At least find out how much it's going to cost to fix the thing. Because even if your appliance is old, as I said, if it's been reliable, there's good reason to believe that it will continue to be reliable after it's repaired for a long time. But, having said that, if you find out that the repair is expensive, if, for example, you need a new condenser for your fridge or the transmission for your clothes washer dies, well, then, it's time to buy something else.
So either decision you make, Checkbook has ratings of appliance stores for quality and price, plus ratings of repair services. And remember, before you say okay for someone to come to your house, if you go with repair, you need to find out how much the company charges and what the cost is for simply showing up at your house.
If you know exactly what repair you need, I think it's important to shop around a little bit because we find huge price variation among repair services for the exact same work. But if you're not sure, and most of us really won't know what's wrong with our appliance, at least find out, how much they're going to charge to show up, and maybe try to get some information from them about, how much they charge per hour for repair work. But again, we find that for most repairs for appliances that they're quite inexpensive. They're usually less than $200 unless a major component has gone bad.
All right, so it's time to buy a new fridge or dishwasher or freezer or whatever, and you don't want to overpay. Checkbook usually finds huge price differences among local service providers for the exact same work, but the survey we did shows that that's not always the case for the new appliance prices if you go from store to store. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so repair prices, huge differences from service to service. But for stores, if you're shopping for new models, not so much. We sought prices for 17 appliance models from stores throughout our 7 metro areas. And for some of the appliances we shopped, we did find some pretty big price differences. We found, for example, we could save 30% or more by doing a lot of shopping around for expensive refrigerators. But overall, the stores, they had pretty similar prices for the exact same models, and that's mostly due to pricing constraints that are put into place by manufacturers.
And that's something called MAP, which stands for Minimum Advertised Pricing. Basically, appliance manufacturers don't let their retailers advertise prices, including online, for below a certain minimum price they set.
That's right. For lots of different types of products, not just appliances, major sellers, such as big box stores, well, they don't want to really have to worry about competing on price with other companies. They want to provide the illusion of having low prices without actually having to offer low prices. Mm-hmm. So what they've done is they've pressured manufacturers to set these advertised price minimums so that they don't have to worry about price wars with one another or having to deal with discounters. And the manufacturers, they're happy to oblige because the big box retailers, they're their biggest customers. And also because manufacturers, they all want to avoid having stores out there selling their products for next to no profit. and then providing minimal service to keep going. So you'll find these similar issues in terms of a minimum advertised pricing and price consistency from seller to seller when shopping for bikes, watches, some types of electronics, and lots of other big ticket items. So for bikes, for example, far as I can tell, every retailer sells the same models for the same prices, and that's because the manufacturers insist on it.
And I can hear our listeners saying, and that's legal?
Yeah, so the way the laws are written is that manufacturers can dictate what their sellers, what retailers can advertise an item for, or even sell it for, so long as there isn't collusion among the manufacturers with one another or among the retailers with one another. So, for example, Lowe's and Home Depot, they can't collude on what they're going to charge for something, but they can work with manufacturers to come up with an agreement that they're all going to, charge the same prices. Hotels can do the same things with booking sites. That's legal. So as long as the collusion is happening vertically within the supply chain or whatever, it's legal. It just can't go across. And of course, the big loser in all this, consumers who want a deal. If you want a really good deal on appliances or on a hotel room, as we've discussed previously, you have to put in some extra work.
And speaking of trying to present that illusion of having good prices, Checkbook also found that most sales prices for appliances are bogus. Tell us about that.
Yes, we've discussed this problem in a previous episode when we reviewed our investigation into sale prices at dozens of major retailers. And what we found is that most retailers, they conduct fake sales. And this is especially true for appliances. You cannot assume that any sale price, even one that seems to be heavily discounted, 50% off, is a real deal. And the reason is the sales offered by many local stores and on most websites probably aren't special at all. At most stores, the sales for appliances, they never end. The stores just simply post a fictitious regular or list price, strike it out, and pretend to discount off of that. But they rarely, if ever, actually sell stuff for those regular prices. So the discounts they're supposedly offering you, they're not real discounts at all. And remember that with appliance stores, they can't advertise the minimum amount set by manufacturers no matter what. So that includes their so-called sale prices. You'll find for the most part is if you did what we did and do a lot of shopping around among various stores for the same stuff, you'll see similar pricing from store to store, despite all these promises of having the latest, big sale event.
I got to tell you, I think most listeners are going to be surprised to hear that they won't save a bundle on appliances if they shop at the big box stores like Home Depot and Lowe's.
No, not at all. We found in our price survey that overall, Home Depot and Lowe's, they pretty much offered the same prices as local independents.
So what about Costco? They sell a lot of appliances.
Yeah, we did find this as the exception to the rule here. We found that Costco was a price winner for appliances. It had prices that were about 15 to 20% lower than those for the same products at Home Depot and Lowe's and at the independents we checked. But a big drawback to shopping at Costco for appliances is that it has a very limited selection. It just doesn't offer a lot of different models. But if you can find what you need in your kitchen at Costco, it's going to be a good buy.
So if you don't buy at Costco, is there any way to get a really good deal on home appliances?
Yeah, I'm sorry to tell everyone this, but if you want a really good deal, if you want legitimate discounts, you're going to have to pick up the phone. So those minimum advertised price policies set by manufacturers, they tell retailers you can't advertise products for less than these minimum amounts. But stores are still allowed to sell products for less than those minimums. In other words, they can still cut deals. They just can't advertise those real deals. So our shoppers found that if they called or emailed stores, told them what we want, the exact model numbers of the products we were looking for, and explained, and this is key, that we're shopping around for the best price, and we're going to buy from the retailer that offers the lowest price, including delivery and setup and installation and all that. We found that many stores, especially independents, the local chains or stores only have 1 or 5 different locations. Those stores had price flexibility and were willing to provide actual discounts and savings below those minimums. So it sounds like a pain, right? I got to call these different places. But so as long as you have the model numbers for what you want, if you know what you want, we found it's really easy. Just the key is to remain polite, be professional, explain your shopping around and that you're going to buy from the lowest cost seller. And another key point here is that If you're looking for good prices, our shoppers found that online sellers, they were a waste of time. And so overall, I think it's just better to buy from a local store that's responsible for delivering the thing. And if something goes wrong with it, taking it back and getting your replacement.
And a personal story to share with you, when we bought our washer and dryer, we went to the local store we tend to go to, and they had a demo model on the floor. We saved a bundle by buying the demo model. There was one that was scratched, there was one that wasn't. Some people would rather save money and have a little scratched dryer or something. It came with a full manufacturer's warranty. We saved many hundreds of dollars by going that route. That's something to think about if you're in the store. See if there's a demo model they want to get rid of.
Yeah, because models that are demo models or things that have a small dent in them or a scratch, those are exempt from these minimum advertised pricing rules. And so retailers really are allowed to give you great deals on those. And there are a few different chains out there that specialize in selling these types of models where they have slight defects or whatever. Just make sure you get the same warranty on that new model that you would with any other appliance.
So the one thing that does vary greatly from store to store, the quality of the service, delivery, and installation. Straight ahead, what Checkbook learned from quality and price ratings of appliance stores. I'm Herb Weisbaum, and this is Consumerpedia, powered by Checkbook.org.
If you like what you hear, we hope you'll consider being a Consumerpedia supporter by using the link at the bottom of the show notes to make a small contribution each month. This is Consumerpedia.
We're appliance shopping with Checkbook's executive editor, Kevin Brassler. You know, Kevin, Checkbook gets a lot of complaints from people who buy appliances. Buying a fridge or dishwasher seems like a straightforward purchase, but from what we've found, there's a lot that can go wrong.
It's astonishing to me how painful this process is for so many consumers. The biggest complaints we get are about delays, and those have been even more common when we had supply chain issues during and after the pandemic. But we've always gotten a lot of complaints and poor ratings for stores that indicate that, some of them are just terrible, especially at installation and delivery. Or the stores don't know how to measure or tell their customers to measure, and they can't get stuff into the door or it won't fit into the space in their kitchens. This is a very common problem. Yep. Big box stores in particular get really lousy ratings for appliance sales service. Costco tends to do a little bit better. Overall, really, what I always do is I urge my friends, and I do, buy from a local independent store, especially one that gets really good ratings for things like advice and delivery and reliability. The reason is they tend to do better. And there's really, again, no reason to buy from a huge retailer if it can't offer what you want, which may be the case with Costco, or it can't offer you a better price, which is true of all the other really big sellers out there.
And a very important tip while comparing prices, you need to take into account extra fees that may be tacked on, such as delivery and setup.
Yeah, for sure, especially since some stores that we surveyed for price, we found that they charge hundreds of dollars to deliver and install products. And so, really make sure you understand what you have to do, find out what the store is going to do, and find out how much you're going to pay in total for each appliance you're buying, including delivery and installation if you need help with that. Also, if you need an appliance hauled away, find out if you have to pay extra for that. It's especially important to find out whether the store will install what you're buying. Some won't touch any gas appliances. They'll unbox them for you, and they're going to leave them in your kitchen and take off. And in that situation, you'll have to hire a plumber to install it or figure out how to do it yourself. And installing dishwashers actually is a pretty complicated job in most cases. So again, some stores, they don't bother with it. They just have delivery people drop stuff off and they take off. And now you're left to hire someone to do that work or try to do it yourself. So by getting prices for all the components of your job, the appliance itself, delivery, any installation help, that allows you to compare prices that you'll pay.
And as we always say, if you pay by credit card and have a problem, you can challenge that charge with your card issuer.
Yeah, I think it's especially important with appliances because we just see so many problems where, somebody's ordered an appliance and it doesn't fit. And now there's this blame game of, who's responsible? Will the store take back that item and deliver something else or not? If you've paid by credit card, you at least have some protections there and might have enough leverage against the retailer to make things right if things go wrong.
And you can ignore the high pressure to spend hundreds of dollars more to protect your purchase by buying that extended warranty.
Yeah, almost all stores are relentless about pushing these policies at checkout. These offers, they are great deals for the stores, but they're awful deals for most consumers. We find that with many credit cards, for example, you can get extended warranty protection. It's often an extra year, if you use those credit cards to pay for stuff. And Costco also extends manufacturer's warranties for free. So the fact that so many businesses provide free warranty extensions indicates that what stores are trying to sell you, often for a lot of money, for hundreds of dollars, really isn't worth that much, and you can skip buying those plans.
True story. I was in an office supply store and bought a calculator many, many years ago when we used calculators. And I was asked, would you like to buy a service contract for that? Yeah. For a $20 handheld calculator? Yeah. But that's where they're making the money.
Yeah, Amazon cracks me up because you'll buy a charger cable for your phone on there for $9, and they try to sell you a service contract, protection plan for $3 or something. It's like, it's just a cable, man.
Moving along, a big factor to consider for such a long-term purchase, energy efficiency. And there's a concern about the future of gas stoves and could they be banned? We'll talk about that next. I'm Herb Weisbaum, and you're listening to Consumerpedia, powered by checkbook.org.
Consumerpedia Fast Facts. When it comes to energy efficiency, refrigerators with freezers on the top typically use less energy than models with freezers on the bottom or side-by-sides. Your dishwasher uses the same amount of water and electricity no matter how many dishes are inside, so make sure it's fully loaded before you run it. About 90% of the energy needed to operate your washing machine is for heating the water, so unless you need to disinfect something, turn down the heat. Today's laundry detergents are formulated to clean just as well in cold water.
Kevin, a lot of folks these days care not just about the appliance features and colors and size and so on. They also care about energy efficiency. Give us some advice about that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that, old appliances, especially those, avocado green and harvest gold, decades old refrigerators and freezers, they do last forever. But the problem is they gobble up so much energy off the grid that governments and utility programs sometimes offer their customers incentives to replace them. So, for example, we found that many utilities will offer $50 to $200 or so to you if you agree to recycle an old fridge. And there are also some incentives to buy appliances that are favorably rated by Energy Star, which is a program that was set up by the U.S. Department of Energy to rate appliances and electronics and heating and air conditioning equipment for efficiency, and they approve of the ones that offer the best efficiency. I think it's important to know that by federal law, all new appliances must meet minimum energy and water usage standards. But some units, they're more efficient than others, or they use less water than others. And the most efficient ones, as I mentioned, they can earn certification by Energy Star. The bad news is the most efficient units out there, they tend to cost a few $100s more than the basic ones that you can buy. But the good news is you usually get back that extra money from rebates from utility companies that you can look for. And we have an advice on tracking those down at checkbook.org. And also, of course, by spending less on energy, the fact that you paid more for the appliance, well, you'll get that extra money back from energy savings eventually. And that's especially the case with refrigerators. Fridges are just real energy hogs. In coming years, appliance manufacturers likely will be required to produce units that consume even less energy and water. In February of this year, the Biden administration proposed updates to regulations that are decades old on minimum standards for appliances. And the new proposal, it will mandate stricter requirements. So it's estimated that its higher standards would save Americans $3.5 billion a year on their energy and water bills by forcing manufacturers to produce more efficient equipment.
And talking about next generation of appliances, let's tackle the headline news stories. Biden administration wants to ban your gas stove.
So this is related to these new requirements that the Biden administration has proposed appliance manufacturers have to start producing more efficient equipment. But what you need to know is that starting sometime next year in most states, there will be a new, really generous rebate program in place to incentivize consumers to ditch their gas stoves in favor of all electric models. The rebate that will be available, it'll be up to $840 to do that, to get rid of your gas stove and replace it with an electric model, which is a pile of money, right? Mm-hmm. But separate from that, several cities around the U.S. are considering or have already passed changes to their zoning laws. They're banning new gas hookups in new buildings, new homes, or if you've done major renovations to your home, if you've gutted your kitchen, for example. So we have these new rules, and on top of that, a member of the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission last year surprised a lot of folks by saying that it may start to ban the sale of new gas appliances.
But big government isn't coming to confiscate the stove you already have, your gas stove.
No, and I think it's silly for certain members of Congress to keep spewing out that kind of nonsense. It's true that in a few years, if you need a new range, you might have to buy an electric one and learn how to cook with it. But for now, the changes we're seeing relate to building new homes or building new commercial buildings or remodeling them. But I think the big fight ahead will actually come from restaurants. Most of them really don't want to switch away from gas. But the good news is, after doing a lot of research on this, I can tell you that the electric induction stoves they sell now are incredibly efficient and they're fast. They're safer. You don't have to worry as much about burns. They're apparently really precise. I mean, if you want to braise something really slowly, you just tell it what temperature to hold, and it can do that. What's available now, it's not the same crappy electric stove I learned to cook on as a kid. We had these coils. It took forever to heat up and get hot. And then we had these 5 buttons. You had to press one of the buttons, and you had to constantly toggle between buttons to get the heat you wanted because you just didn't have many options. But the main reason to go electric is that the gas stoves and the supply infrastructure that feeds them, they're major contributors to climate change. You cannot power a gas stove with wind or solar, and all those gas lines out there, they're pretty leaky. That's why you're seeing this shift toward electric. They're called electrification because in general, you can power electric stove off renewables. You can't power a gas stove that way. But to recap, I think this is really important. The government is not going to come take away your gas stove. That's nonsense. What we are seeing is that for new building projects in some jurisdictions, they're eliminating this option of installing gas lines at all. And in some jurisdictions, in the next few years, you may see that if you need to shop for a new stove, well, your only option might be electric.
I'm just sitting here thinking about the stove in my parents' house and those 5 push buttons. I'm just seeing it in my mind's eye.
Those damn buttons.
And just for the record, before we leave, my Harvest Gold washer and dryer, the first ones I had, Maytag, 25 years. They may have used a lot of water and they may have used a lot of electricity. Man, they made those suckers to last.
It is shocking to me that refrigerators used to last for generations. And now it's 10, 12 years is the maximum. And now they've gotten so damn expensive. Why don't they last longer?
Amen. Well, Kevin, as always, a lot of really good information. I actually learned a couple of things this time. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
All right. Thanks so much, Herb. Talk to you soon.
Well, that's it for this edition of Consumerpedia. We hope you'll rate this episode and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Remember, we release new episodes every other Thursday. Another way you can support this show is to follow us on Consumerpedia on Facebook and Instagram, and at My Consumerpedia on Twitter. I'm Herb Weisbaum. Thanks for listening.
Consumerpedia is a public service of checkbook.org. We're a unique nonprofit that helps you save money and make smarter choices. You can count on Checkbook to help you find the best services and avoid the worst, with local ratings that are accurate and unbiased. If you live in or around these 7 cities and haven't joined Checkbook yet, check us out. Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, Seattle, San Francisco, Minneapolis-St. Paul, and Washington, D.C. To get your free 30-day subscription, go to checkbook.org/consumerpedia. If you like what you've heard, we hope you'll become a supporter by using the link at the bottom of the show notes to make a small contribution each month. Consumerpedia, empowering consumers to save money and make smarter choices.